Peace and blessings. Peace and many blessings. I am YPG, your humble correspondent, and this is the War Report. Gentlemen, we are in the trenches. We are on the front lines. And what I wanted to talk to you about today was how most men are prisoners to attachment. You know, I don't care if I'm in my job, if I'm at home, if I'm perusing the internet, I always run into someone that is nostalgic about his relationship and how things used to be, or thinking about how things can be better with his significant other. And I just tend to shake my head. Because as much as the red pill has caused a lot of men to open their eyes, there are scores of men who refuse to accept the reality of things. You know, I am ice cold on a broad. And it's not rooted in anything misogynistic. It's not rooted in insecurity. It's just because I value my time first and foremost, and I have knowledge of self. I have knowledge of self. The modern woman isn't used to being held to standards. The modern woman doesn't have to bring her A game to the table because she's used to men rolling out the red carpet for her. And by all means, you know, if you got a sucker, take him for everything he got. But I'm not cut from that cloth. It sickens me. It sickens me to see the levels of supplication and kowtowing that men go to these days. At times I think, how can we get back to where we were? But then I had to realize there are only a few alphas in the wild. Every man was not born to be a leader. That's just the way it is. So, the way I approach all my relationships with women is not only do I set boundaries, but I give a woman enough rope for her to hang herself. I mean, you're talking to a man that told his own daughter. I told my own daughter. I didn't talk to her for months because she disrespected me. I said, yes, you are my flesh and blood. You are my firstborn child, but if there comes a time where I feel as though you're trying to make me compromise my principles, I'll just leave. You know, nobody else could understand why I even went about it the way I did, but, you know, most of the women in my life have done some off-the-wall stuff, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it because if my mother, if my wife, if my daughter, you know, if my aunts can do some off-the-wall stuff like that, what do you think a random female would do? And a lot of you men, man, y'all just, Y'all put y'all vows, y'all put y'all relationships before your self-respect. And that's because you bought into the idea of happy wife, happy life. You can have it. You can have it. I reached a point where, I don't know when it was, but to make a long story short, you know, my wife was talking about how she wanted to have, you know, she wanted to get pregnant. So she was pregnant, and she kept talking about how much she wanted to have an abortion. I didn't say anything. So she got the abortion. Blame me for it, mind you. Said it was my fault that she had to get an abortion. Cool. She got the abortion. 3 months later, she's boo-hooing and crying and blaming me for not talking her into keeping the baby. So I don't necessarily know exactly what she did, but she did something that caused me to put her ass on ice. Tundra time. And this was around the time when she had the abortion, and she couldn't figure out why she had to go through that by herself. And I said, you did what I told you not to do. Oh yeah, but I'm going through this dark time, and you know, I really need my husband. No, it doesn't work like that. You deliberately disobeyed me. It's tundra time for you. No texts, no phone calls. She didn't see me for about 4 or 5 days. Now, it's much harder when you're married, but the fact remains that if I have to, you know, let's say if my son was staying with relatives, and if her ass wanted to act, I would just disappear. I would hit a ninja smoke bomb and disappear. And that's because I refuse to be disrespected. I refuse to kowtow, supplicate, and be browbeaten. I refuse, man. I've seen men I've seen grown men have all their dirty laundry exposed because they didn't want to buy their wives a purse, or they didn't want to give their wives some money to for whatever she wanted at the moment. Man. Put her on ice, man. Put her on ice. It's to the point now where my heart, I got an ice box where my heart used to be. Or Marion. You see what I'm saying? I do, and that's the way you have to be. You cannot allow anybody to get away with that shady shit. You cannot. That's anybody, let alone a woman. Oh, man. I digress. A lot of y'all are just gluttons for punishment. Be on the lookout. You know, because like I said, things are always changing. But the more they change, the more they stay the same. This is YPG Betancourt. Signing out.